Roxy Soxy.
Good morning, Tam.
How is it in Los Angeles right now?
Girl, we're about to hit an entire shutdown of the city. We're going to major lockdown. I think you're not even supposed to go outside for exercise. I think
they said you'd get fined. Is that
Yes, yeah. I think so. So, hey, I guess that means I don't have to work out today.
Roxy's getting 20 misdemeanors.
Yeah, exactly.
She's going to be fined all the time.
No, but so we're dealing with that. It's kind of crazy here. How's Texas? My home state.
It's interesting because Austin's a little bit different than Texas. I feel like it's really, I don't know, it's kind of like they say, keep Austin weird. It's really awkward and weird, and I kind of love it. But to be honest, we haven't left really for a week. We've only got here a week ago, and we haven't really left because, I'm really worried about what's going on, and I don't want to risk being at a restaurant because things are open here, like hair salons and nail salons and massage places. They're all open. You have to wear a mask and you have to take precautions, but everything's open. And that kind of scares me a little more. And as much as I think it's wonderful for the businesses, I'm always well, that's also going to create more cases. And then we're ultimately going to shut down anyway. So if we could all just shut down for 2 weeks, completely, then we can try to move into some normalcy,
Well, I just keep thinking about this. I keep thinking, oh my God, a year back, a year ago, think about how different the world was.
Oh my goodness.
We were coming and going as we pleased. We were drinking. We had girls' holiday dinners.
Gosh. So I used to actually kiss you on the cheek. I'm never going to kiss you again.
I know. We're going to be like this forever.
We're never going to touch anyone. No, it's terrible.
No, it's literally awful.
The one thing I'm excited about is we have someone that I never told you this because why would I? But when I was 15, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, around that age, I would get up really early and eat rice cereal. I don't know why. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I eat Rice Krispies or Puffs or whatever they are. And I put raisins. I was going to say sultanas because sultanas is
what
raisins.
Is that?
Yes. Sultanas is raisins. And I just got so Aussie when I said that.
It sounds like a shoe. It sounds like a shoe brand, Sultanas.
Sultanas in my my Rice Krispies, my Wheat Bix, and I would sit and watch episodes of Step by Step with Suzanne Somers.
Oh yes, that's another classic of hers. I forgot about that, but you're right. Yes. But I used to watch.
I used to watch some earlier, but I'm never going to tell you my age. Totally. I forgot that one. That's when I was actually having fun because I was, out with the boys. I was when I was a kid.
It's so funny. I remember they used to have this thing called TGI Friday. I think it was on Friday. Yeah. But I would sit with my Fridays. I better be Fridays. I would sit with my parents and watch these reruns of Three's Company. The show that
I've never even. I know that show, but I didn't watch it because it was all before my time.
Girl, you need to catch up on your Three's Company.
Yeah,
you would love that. Actually, you would love the clothes.
Day by
day. Oh my God! And Patrick Duffy was in that too.
Oh my God!
From Dallas, from the other iconic
Those two
show.
Shows were incredible, and
she's amazing.
Was the sexiest little icon. And the funny thing is, I told my husband about Step by Step. You're saying Three's Company, and Sean's the movie that put her on the map, which was American Graffiti.
Yes.
So all different things we all feel really connected to her through is all these different things that she's done. And also I need to get the thigh master.
Oh, yes.
Thigh master. Say that 3 times.
Thigh master.
Yes, because my thighs are a little, all over the place. But yeah, who do we have today?
Oh my gosh. So we have, talk about an icon. This woman is a global icon. She's an actress, producer, composer, author, businesswoman, empire builder, revolutionary. We've got the iconic Suzanne Somers. Woo!
Not to toot my horn, but I also have written 27 books.
That's right.
27 books. When do you sleep?
When do you... I know.
I value sleep. Sleep is when we repair.
Yes.
And, when I first started writing books I guess I've been writing books for about, 30 years now. Mm-hmm. And I used to stay up till all hours of the night thinking I was ahead of the game because the phone's not ringing and no one was coming over, and I would, get a few hours of sleep. It did not serve me well. And then 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and that's when I decided to change my life and eat as though my life depended upon it, sleep as though my life depended upon it, and think as though my life depended upon it. And it all worked because you need to sleep, you need to eat properly, and you need to think positive thoughts.
When you talk about sleep, it's funny because my husband and I haven't slept in the same bed. It's because we don't get good sleep together. And I realized that our relationship has thrived so much more now that we're actually sleeping 8 hours and we have 2 small children. And it's such a misnomer that, when you don't sleep together, there's problems in relationships. Also, it makes it more sexy when you don't have someone snoring while you're asleep. You're like, well, I actually like you in the morning.
Wait a minute. You don't sleep together as a general rule.
Not as a general rule. I would like to sleep with him. The problem is he wakes up a lot. I need 8 hours of sleep. We have 2 kids under the age of 7. One's 1.5 years old.
Yeah.
So what happens is he disrupts my sleep, and I totally believe that my hormones get really affected with lack of sleep, and I become a horrible person to be around. So for me, sleep is really important, and I think it's the reason our marriage has survived.
Wow. I've never heard that before.
Going back to the beginning, because your life, there's so many rich stories within your life, and just to take it to the beginning, could you tell us a little bit about growing up, in your family? I know your dad was an alcoholic. How did that shape your childhood, and how did that change you, for better or worse while you were growing up?
I think I was processing the whole time I was a child, and it was pretty violent. And we had a closet that my brother put a lock on the inside of the closet where we would hide at night on the really violent nights. It wasn't until I became a professional and successful that I saw the benefits of negativity. And that is that he used to tell me, that I'd never amount to anything, those kind of litanies. And I used to, in my mind, think, yeah, well, I'll show you. And so I realized that I got a bad case of the I'll show yous. And I remember feeling very redeemed one night in Las Vegas. I had my big Vegas act at the MGM Grand Hotel, and he and my mother were down in front. And I called him up on stage to sing him a song. And I thought, yeah, well, I showed you, didn't I? And I've used that all my life. I've used, all the negatives in my life as like judo, using forward energy to win. We all have highs and lows and good things and bad things that happen to us. And you can let it do you in. Or you can use it and make it work for you to enhance the life that you're living. And that's what I've done with all the negatives in my life. Not all of them, but most of them. You're just ticking off the list.
Don't waste your pain. That's always a quote that I've had. And everyone has something, and especially artists like us, it's like everything you've been through, you can create into something and into something beautiful, and don't waste it, because we're all connected in a way through pain in some way. Which goes back to and joy, of course. It's not all just negative, Suzanne. I promise. There's joy there too. So I've recently had my second child. I'm in my mid-30s, and you got pregnant at 18 years old, which I can't even imagine what that does to a young girl who's growing up. And it was the first time you ever had sex, which is such an intense way to view sex. And walk us through the moment you found out that you were going to be a mother.
I didn't think that I actually had sex. I kept saying, as a good Catholic girl, no.
Right.
But I guess one little guy got in there,
Yeah.
I got a scholarship to college, and I was in the dormitory. My roommate was Bob Hope's daughter, Nora Hope. And I kept saying, my breasts were so sore. And I finally went to a gynecologist and I said, my breasts, I can hardly sleep on them. They hurt so much. And he said, well, dear, you're pregnant. And I remember thinking, pregnant? I had been thinking of breaking up with this guy because I was not in high school anymore, and the thrill was gone. And so there, at that time, there was something called you had to get married. And I had to get married. And it was whispered about in the small town and the church that I belonged to and all that. And it added to my already low self-esteem and my pain and not feeling good about myself. So I dropped out of school and I married the guy. I did the right thing and I had my baby, and I fell in love when they pulled my baby from my body. He was right here. And I looked at him with his worried little eyes and I said, I promise I'm going to make a good life for you. I said that out loud in the delivery room. And I did. I made a lot of mistakes, but he always tells me, he said, I always knew I was loved. I think that's probably the most important thing you can do for a child. You may make some stupid decisions along the way, but if they grew up knowing that they are loved, and I loved him, you're ahead of the game. So he's today a productive member of society. He's married. He has 2 kids. He has his own business. He lives a beautiful life. He's so happy. So I did something right. And the idea that, I gave birth to him 1 month after my 19th birthday. I was pregnant during my 18th year. But the fact that he turned out so well when I had no experience, not only at being a mother, but even what a normal family was, and what a normal relationship with mother and son was. So when I look at him, I kind of give myself a little pat on the back, like you did something right.
You sure did. And also during that time, that initial time when you had him as he was growing up, you were also a very successful actress. So I can only imagine the balance of, being a mom and being in Hollywood and, chasing your professional dreams at that time too must have been, like a struggle at some points.
I never went after my career to make it. I was just trying to make a living, to get food, shelter, and clothing, the essentials. And finally, I was in love at that point with Alan Hamill. And I was making my living doing, extra work and, local commercials and things like that. Nothing where you made any money. And I finally one day said to Alan, I'm going to move to Los Angeles because there's no work in San Francisco. And I'm going to move there. And I'd love to move in with you. But if you don't want me to, I'm coming anyway. And so he balked, and he was afraid to commit, men. And I had my brother Michael help me load up a U-Haul truck, and we drove to Los Angeles. I moved in with Alan Hamill and my son, and it's been 50 years.
Wow. And
we're still together. I am at this stage of my life with Alan in love with him. I love him, but I'm in love with him. I get giddy around him. I love sleeping with him.
Oh no! Our relationship is doomed.
Right. Where does that spice come from, Suzanne? Where does that passion come from? Like, even after all this time,
please tell us.
Yeah,
please
tell us. We need to know. We're both on year 15 right now, so we've got some ways to go, but we want to make it to where you are. Yes.
Yeah. I think year 15, those are the hardest years.
Young children.
Raising children, and they're going into their teen years, and your teenagers will put a lot of pressure on your relationship. It's when they go away to school and then when they move out of the house, so that you get to pick and choose to be with your kids. always have been big on having Sunday dinners and coming and staying with us in our compound here in the desert. And it leaves a lot of alone time for Alan and I. It's like we're on a constant date. We have
Sounds so sexy.
I know.
and I'm at Big Al's bar right now. We come here most every night at 5:00 and have a tequila and we talk.
See,
the tequila.
Tequila. You are my spirit animal, Suzanne. That is also my favorite cocktail.
I'm always like with the tequila, I'm like, where's the stripper pole? So I can understand. It's got a little something in there. So as someone who is... So talking about sexuality, as someone who's on the forefront of the sexual revolution in the 70s, how do you feel society's perception of sexuality and beauty has changed since then?
It's today, it's no big deal. Chrissy Snow, the character I played on Three's Company, every time she jumped for joy, the queen of the jiggle, it made the news. It was a big deal. Women weren't overtly sexual like that. And the reason it worked for that character was that she was a woman child. She had no idea the effect she had on people. And that was such a fun character to play because of that. Today, sexuality is for the effect. And they're beautiful. The women today are more beautiful than they've ever been, I think, in the history of womanhood. And I love looking at these women. They're gorgeous. But it's just a whole different era right now. And it all works for different reasons.
So, you yourself are considered an icon. In fact, one of the most beautiful people in the world several times over. So how do you define beauty? Like, what makes a person beautiful to you?
Beauty. That's an interesting question. Never been asked that. I think when you are true to who you are, that you're honest and real and not phony. And then if you throw in some good looks, it helps a little. I know it's not a great answer, but I think self-truth is really important. Tell yourself the truth about yourself. I had a lot of therapy to undo the damage of my childhood. And a big part of what that entailed was really looking at myself, really looking at what I liked about myself and what I didn't like about myself. It's real easy to see what you like about yourself. It's not fun to look at what you don't like about yourself. But if you don't, you'll never fix yourself. And our job as adults is to fix ourselves and to make ourselves likable to ourselves. Getting a little too ourselves-y here.
I feel like women find it difficult to feel beautiful. I don't know. I know I never have. And Roxy says that she struggles with it too. Because we're told that beauty is this brass ring that you never really can achieve. And so when you can't achieve it, you're constantly trying to be more beautiful in what the world sees you as. So it takes, like you said, a lot of work and a lot of therapy to find that in yourself. And it's not always easy.
I think this is the most narcissistic generation that I've ever been aware of. Everybody's, not only taking selfies nonstop, but they have those apps where they can make, thin their neck down and take all the wrinkles out of their face, etc. If you look on my Facebook page or my website, SuzanneSomers.com, I've never done that. I like the way I look. I've always liked the way I look. And is it classic beauty? No. Is it perfect? No. It's uniquely me. And people respond to me in a positive way. I've been told in this month by two different men. They both happen to be billionaires. And they both said, when you walk into a room, you light up the room. And I thought, Well, isn't that great?
And also you had to walk into many room of, full of men in your career. So as you were coming up, do you think your beauty, because you are so beautiful, do you think that helped you when you'd walk into a group, of these men, especially in Hollywood, or would they try to take advantage of you? Like, how do you think that played out?
I probably was lucky because from the moment I moved to Los Angeles, I was always with Alan Hamill. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't met him, you don't mess with him. And he's fiercely jealous. And I think men can smell that. And so men don't come on to me like that. And I'm glad. I don't have to even deal with that. But I've been treated badly in my business by men. But I kind of, again, made that work for me. I mean, it was men who fired me from Three's Company because at year 6, when my contract was up, I had to renegotiate. And Laverne and Shirley had just renegotiated before me, and they gave ABC a colonic. And so ABC, unbeknownst to us, had decided that they were not going to let women think that they could be paid equal to the men. And so when Alan went in to do my negotiating, which he had to, the contract was up, as I said, I could not have done any better on that show. The show was number 1. My demographics were the highest of any female on television at that time. And so it was strictly a rub my nose in it and let all the other women in television know, see what happens to you if you dare to think that you could have the audacity to ask for what the men were making, who were making, by the way, as much as 10 to 15 times more than me.
Wow.
10 to 15 times more. So, when I got fired, I was devastated because I achieved, I succeeded. Rather than getting mad, rather than starting a whole campaign of, who they think they are, Alan took me by the shoulders with his wisdom, and he said, we're going to make this work for us. And that's when we decided we would never work for anyone ever again, so that I could never be in that position again. What I did have was enormous visibility. Everybody in this country and in many, many parts of the world knew my name. And that's valuable. So what do you do with that? So we took my valuable, well-known name, and he went to Vegas and he made a 2-year deal at the MGM Grand. And then in the summers, and that was a huge success. In 1987, I was named Las Vegas Female Entertainer of the Year, along with Frank Sinatra, who was his Male Entertainer of the Year. And then we went on the road in the summers when Vegas slows down. And, you can't sit and watch soap operas all day. So we started thinking about how else we could make money. And the Thigh Master was our first product. And we sold 10 million Thigh Masters and thought, hey, this entrepreneurship is really...
It's really easy.
So today, you put on high heels and a high-cut leotard and you can sell Thigh Masters. Today, we have a thriving business with over 1,000 products of organic skincare, hair care, organic color makeup, household cleaning products, everything all certified toxic free. And every Tuesday and every Friday, and sometimes on Wednesdays, I cook for my Facebook Live shows. We do these live shows right here from Big Al's Bar. And they're 5 o'clock so that they can come and have a tequila with us.
Favorite. I'll be there.
Yes.
Where are you?
No, you should come.
I will.
I answer questions. And
Cool.
we get a little buzz going. And then I teach and talk about, bioidentical hormones and the thyroid and the, what estrogen does and progesterone and what the balance should be. And women are very interested in that. at your age, you got to be interested because that's down the road.
I'm very interested.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very interested in hormones for the ever since having a child, and Roxy can attest to this. Like, we've had a hormone specialist on the show. My hormones just went completely whacked. From my hair to my skin, to my mood, to my mental state, to my body. And I realized that, before menopause, there's 4 different stages of the hormones, and you can mother, you can exercise, you can think differently in all different phases. And I think hormones are a huge thing that women haven't really dug into. And so they wonder why certain things affect them so much. But we need to talk about hormones. Absolutely.
The bulk of my books are about bioidentical natural hormone replacements. Did this all happen after your second child?
Happened a little after my first, because I was 29, 30 when I had my first, and then mid-30s when I had my second. So it's almost like every child starts to compact how up your body gets. So it was kind of back to normal, but then after the second, it was like, good night, nurse. It was like, yeah, we're over. Start again.
So often, and it happens with the first child, but so often on the second child, when they, cut the opening to allow for a little more room for the baby to maneuver through, they also cut the nerve. And when they cut the nerve, the progesterone production doesn't rev up properly. So a woman makes estrogen every day of the month. She only makes progesterone 15 days a month. Estrogen is your carcinogenic hormone, but progesterone is the anti-carcinogenic. So you don't want to have a lowered production of progesterone. If it were me, I would get a hormone panel done to see where your levels are, to make sure that you're not low. It's all about the ratio. The ratio has to be right. I have a book that I think you would really enjoy. That I wrote called "I'm Too Young for This," because most women who are
so I say to my husband every day, "I'm too young to deal with your bullshit."
But you'll find yourself in that book.
Okay. Yep. So, based on these hormones, because our hormones are, like, as Tammin was saying, after both of us had children, they just were all over the place. So it's kind of like wrangling them again, but also, especially with intimacy with our husbands, we talk about the sex periods that we have. Like, is it dry? Is it good? Is it, what's going on? So I would love to know your opinion. Do you think sex is better now, or is it better like before, or at a certain age?
Well, I'm on full hormone replacement, and so is my husband. And we get in trouble for saying this, but we generally have sex every day.
What?
I know. My God.
Are you lying?
Yeah. Because we're both in the mood, because our hormones are in perfect balance.
No wonder they're still in love. No wonder.
I love sex. And when I say that I love sex, people, we have sex a couple times a week, but that is such a big thing. People go a couple times a week. Oh my gosh. Cause I know people go, dry spells for a month or whatever it is. Yeah. But I love intimacy and I love touch and I love sex, but my hormones don't, to have an orgasm one day, and to have one every day, it's almost like they're not as strong because your body hasn't, replenished. But apparently these hormones that you're taking, I can take replacement hormones on my hormones, and that would be probably problematic.
He'd be running in the other room.
Yeah, not doing anything with my life.
Isn't it frustrating that the doctors are so ill-informed? Because they don't teach them this in med school. It's almost like our hormones aren't important in med school, and our hormones are our communication system. All the hormones talk to one another at all times, all during the day, all during the night, 24 hours a day. And so your messaging might not be at optimum. Honestly, I read "I'm Too Young for This" and then find a qualified doctor at the back of the book, and then have your labs done to see if it were me, in the back of the book, there's a site called Life Extension, and they have a scientific advisory board of 29 doctors, scientists, and professionals. They will recommend the right lab test for you to take, and then it has to be ordered by your doctor, a qualified doctor, and then the Life Extension will interpret the test for you so that you really find out like what's going on. Life is short.
Right. Absolutely. And another subject that's really taboo is sex, as far as even on these podcasts. I mean, we are a very sex positive podcast. We love to talk about sex on this podcast. But why do you think the topic is still so taboo? Even now, you get people that are, horrified that you're talking about it.
I think it is really a reaction to the fact that the people who get shocked are doing that because they aren't having the full experience. They aren't having satisfactory orgasms. They aren't having satisfactory sexual experiences. And so it's easier to say, oh my God, how can you talk about that? Because if you're loving it, like you just said, I love sex, I love intimacy. You're not shocked or horrified. It's an important part of life. It's called procreation. Not that I'm going to have any babies, but I have tricked my body into thinking it could have a baby. It's just that I have no.
Be careful.
You never know.
So we also talk a lot about spirituality and religion. Do you consider yourself a spiritual person? Do you fear death and dying like Roxy and I talk about every night? At about 9 o'clock at night, I start to panic. It happens like clockwork. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I just had a wonderful day. Why does this have to happen? Do you believe that there's something else after, or are you able to just let go of that control?
Oh no, I definitely feel there's something there's a higher power and there's something after this. And I listen to the voices in my head. I'm very spiritual. Yesterday we went to Los Angeles and we had a driver, and while I was in the doctor's office, he went to get a sandwich. And when he came out, our tire had been slashed. So we had to have the spare tire put on. So then he picked us up and we get on the freeway and we're an hour into coming back to Palm Springs and a second tire in the back blew up. And luckily he was a experienced driver. So he was able to safely get us across the highway lanes. I think it was vandalism. I think somebody slashed both tires. And so last night I was lying in bed and thinking, God, why'd that happen? And I had a heavy-duty doctor's appointment yesterday. And so I was sort of a little bit on the pity pot last night. And then the voice came in my head and I said, thank you for saving my life today. And thank you for that doctor who put me on track, which probably saved my life. And I don't know if you know, but almost 3 months ago, I took a terrible fall and broke my neck.
Yes.
And I said out loud in my head last night, and thank you for getting me to that doctor in time so that I didn't become paralyzed. And I realized, wow, there's something saving my life constantly, regularly. For some reason, I am supposed to live. I have more work to do. And so it just gives me a great sense of purpose. I think we all need purpose. And that gave me great purpose last night. So that was good.
I didn't tell you this, Roxy. The other day, I should have called you, but I was in the car and I was driving. I'm in Austin, so I don't know the roads. We've been on a road trip from Los Angeles down here, and I was driving and I turned left, and because there was a blind spot as I turned left, there was a Range Rover coming and he missed me by centimeters.
Oh my God.
It would have been a head-on collision at 60 miles an hour, not 50 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour. And he missed me, and it would have been my fault. I just didn't see him.
Right.
And my kids were in the back, and I was so shaken. And the first thing is you say horrible things to yourself, like you're an idiot and how could you not see this? And you put your kids' lives at jeopardy. But what you were saying, Suzanne, is like that in that moment, there was a guardian angel that saved my life. And it's always the thought that you go down. It's like, are we going to be negative, or are we going to think and flip it on its ear and be grateful? Because without gratitude, we really have nothing.
Right. Yeah, something saved your life because you have more to do.
Right.
And saved your children's life because theirs is just beginning. And they have a lot to do. So, and that's how I felt last night. I clearly am being saved because I have so much more to do.
And speaking of purpose, because a lot of, especially young women coming up, are looking for purpose and guidance. Is there any piece of advice that you could offer, a young lady or young man coming up, no matter what industry they're in, just to kind of, if they're looking like your amazing, successful career, to kind of model after you, what would you say to them?
Do what you love. There's that saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. But if you do what you love, and you don't do it for money, you will have purpose. You will succeed, and you'll find yourself in the right place with the right whatever at all times.
It's a money thing that always gets in the way. It's like, because you want to provide for your family, so then you end up doing things that you don't want to do, or say yes to things you don't want to do because you want to provide.
If you do what you love, it works out. It'll work out.
It'll work out. Yeah, do what you love so much you would do it for free, essentially.
Exactly.
So
I'd have sex.
Lots of sex.
I'd be like, well, Suzanne told me to be here, so I'm just going to give out sex to everyone. So, Suzanne, before we let you go, would you like to do a quick never have I ever? Do you have time for that? It'll be quick 5 minutes. Let us know.
Tell me what never have I ever.
So we just say never have I ever stolen something, and then you say I have or I haven't.
Yeah, you say yes or you have
yes
or you
no.
never.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Yes. Thank you, Suzanne.
This has been enjoyable.
Oh, good.
You were like surprised. You're like, this has been actually enjoyable.
I know. She's like, I actually didn't hate it.
It's like people come on the show, Suzanne. They like us. I promise.
And Suzanne, where is the best place that people can find you?
SuzanneSomers.com and come to my Facebook page on Tuesdays and Fridays and some Wednesdays to watch my shows.
Fantastic.
You will love them.
You know that Tammin and I will be there with our tequilas in hand, ready to go.
5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. And Roxy Soxy, you can find us on Women on Top Official on Instagram.
And Women on Top Podcast on Facebook.
And I am Tammin Sursock.
And I am Roxy Manning.
And we are Women
on